Fabio di Giannantonio could not get the words out. The camera was rolling, the whole team was standing in front of him, and the rider who is currently the best thing Ducati has on track this season just broke down completely. Not because he lost something, because he won everything he came for, and he is leaving anyway. The paddock is replaying that clip and calling it a beautiful goodbye. That is the version everyone is comfortable with. It is also the version that quietly buries what that room actually meant. So why is a rider sitting third in the championship walking out on the team that rebuilt him? And who is really losing more in this Diggia, or the man who stood there watching him cry? Because this is not a transfer story. Transfers happen every year, and nobody weeps into a camera over them. This is Valentino Rossi losing the single best rider his team ever took in off the scrap heap, and losing him to a factory he was never rich enough to outbid. For 3 years, VR46 was the answer to a question nobody else wanted to touch. What do you do with a race winner that the Ducati structure decided it did not need? Rossi's team took that rider, rebuilt him from the ground up, and turned him into a genuine podium threat. Now that the hard part is finished, someone with deeper pockets is walking off with the result. To understand why that goodbye hurts the way it does, you have to remember what this rider was worth to anyone the day Rossi's team signed him. Rewind to where Diggia actually was. Gresini had handed his seat to Marc Marquez. The most wanted rider on the planet needed a Ducati, and Diggia was the name that got moved to make room, through no failure of his own. He was a Grand Prix winner with nowhere to go, staring down a season on the sidelines while the paddock treated him like a rounding error. That is the part the tribute clips leave out. He was not a hot property VR46 fought to sign. He was a rider the Ducati world had effectively discarded, and Rossi's team was the only door that did not close in his face. VR46 gave him the seat nobody else offered, and then something happened that nobody scripted. He did not just survive there, he got faster, calmer, and harder to beat. The kid who was almost out of MotoGP entirely turned into one of the most consistent front runners on the entire grid. But the higher he climbed inside that family, the more he was pricing himself out of it. And that is the trap nobody in the celebration wants to say out loud. Look at where he actually sits right now, third in the championship. The leading Ducati rider on the entire grid, satellite or factory, ahead of every works bike the brand has. A win this season, and 2 more podiums, and a team that finally snapped its own victory drought because of him. On paper, this is the best form of his life. The numbers of a rider finally entering his prime, produced by the exact team he is about to abandon. And there is one moment from that same weekend almost nobody connected to any of this. When Diggia won and broke the team's drought, Rossi walked over, smiling, and asked him one quiet question. "Are you sure you want to leave?" It sounds like a joke. It was not. He was watching the rider he rescued hand his team a victory on the way out the door. And even Rossi, a man who has seen everything this sport can do to people, could not quite process the timing. His future was already slipping away from them. Diggia gave them the win anyway. So why could VR46 not simply keep him? This is where the sport stops being romantic. KTM offered a factory seat, the one Brad Binder is being moved out of, plus factory money and a factory future in the new era. VR46 could offer another year on the same satellite Ducati machinery and a family that loves him. Reports out of the paddock were blunt about the split. KTM moved fast and paid in full, and VR46 was left waiting. When a works team decides it wants you, a satellite squad running on borrowed bikes and belief does not get to counter the offer. It gets to say thank you. That is why the farewell video lands the way it does. Watch what he actually says before it collapses. "I really thought it would be easier." Then the mask goes. "You guys gave me everything, all I am now." And then the line that gives the whole thing away. "I was not this person. I was not this man. I was not this rider." That is not a man celebrating a promotion. That is a man apologizing. He is thanking the people who built him for something he is about to do to them. And this is where the story stops being about one crying rider. People thought this was a promotion story, a good kid finally collecting his factory reward. It was never that. It was a live demonstration of exactly how little a satellite team gets to keep. VR46 did everything right. They found value nobody else saw. They developed it patiently. They protected it. And they turned a discarded rider into a genuine championship contender. Their reward for all of it is a farewell video and an empty half of the garage in 2027. Because in the factory money era, this is the food chain, and nobody says it plainly. Satellite teams are development labs. They take the risk, they do the slow rebuilding, they absorb the bad seasons nobody else wants. And the moment the rider becomes elite, a manufacturer with a real budget simply writes the check, and the finished work walks out wearing somebody else's colours. Then look who is waiting in the other half of that KTM garage. Alex Marquez. Another satellite Ducati race winner, developed at Gresini, signed by the very same factory in the very same window. KTM did not just take a rider this week. It went shopping in the satellite paddock and left with the two best machines the Ducati world built and could not afford to keep. And sit with the symmetry for a second. A Marquez once took the seat that ended Diggia's Gresini chapter. Now a Marquez is the teammate who opens his factory one. The name that cost him everything is the name he rides beside to finally get paid. Diggia is not the exception here. He is the clearest proof yet that a satellite family can build a champion. It just cannot afford to hold one. So go back to those tears, because they are not gratitude. They are grief, and underneath the grief is a man who already knows the price of what he is doing. Diggia is leaving the only team that believed in him when the sport had written him off, and he is doing it because a factory finally offered the ceiling VR46 was never wealthy enough to reach. That is not betrayal, it is the market. But it is brutal, and every single person in that room understood it. Then watch how KTM framed the same event. Pit Byra called him a strong team player and a good guy who will fit easily into our Red Bull KTM factory racing project. Clean, corporate, a finished product slotted neatly into a plan. That is the language of a company collecting an asset, and you should hold it right next to the footage of a rider who cannot speak through his own tears. VR46 paid in years and belief. KTM paid in money. KTM got the rider. Rossi is left holding the only thing the money could not buy back, the 3 seasons he spent quietly building someone else's factory star. So when Diggia said he would carry them in his heart, ask the question the clip is hiding. Did he walk out on the family, or did the family simply never have the money to keep him? Let us know in the comments below, and once you do that, make sure to click on the video appearing on your screen right now.